Country roads take me home to a place I belong. Rocky Mountains, Missouri River, take me home. Country roads. Broadcasting from Farm 406 Studios, welcome to my fellow Montanans. And hopefully today's show is better than my singing, but someone always said, you gotta sing on the radio for us. And I did choir back in middle school and high school, but I tell you what, it's a lot different doing choir than it is singing solo. But anyway, don't turn your radios off. We got a pretty good show ahead today, so stay tuned. We're going to mix it up a little bit between some healthcare, talking about the different vaccines that we have available on the market, some of the changes coming into 2025, and of course, government ridiculousness on my fellow Montanans today. So let's get into a little bit of housekeeping here. So all of you out there right now, I can guarantee you probably have a cell phone in your hand, but Farm 406 is nominated for one of the best pharmacies in Billings, Montana, but not just Billings, the state of Montana. And I need your help to win Best Pharmacy. And to do that, all you got to do is text the number 214 to phone number 406-708-8670. Okay, for those of you that missed that, the phone number you're going to text this to. Okay, so the phone number 406-708-8670, and you're going to text the number 214 to that number. And you can do this once a day. So if you could do me a favor and text 214 to 406-708-8670 every day, once a day, until August 17th to help Farm 406 win Best Pharmacy of the Year, not only just for the city of Billings, but for the entire state of Montana. Because those of you that know Farm 406, we don't just keep it local. We keep it Montana local. We support Montanans all over. We mail prescriptions to you farmer and ranchers that are out there in the middle of nowhere, so you don't have to waste your time and gas coming to town. We take care of Montanans. Montanans take care of Montanans. So that's why we deserve to be Best Pharmacy. So I need your help to vote for that. So text 214 to 406-708-8670 every day until August 17th. All right, my fellow Montanans, I want to start the show off talking about vaccines for 2025 and a little Montana history, because this brings vaccines into Montana. A lot of you don't know that Dr. Maurice Hilleman was born in Miles City, Montana. And those of you that don't know who Maurice Hilleman was, he was born in Miles City, Montana, or outside Miles City, Montana, but he was the father of modern vaccines. Dr. Hilleman developed over 40 vaccines, which is an unmatched record. No one else in the world has developed more vaccines than Dr. Hilleman from right here in the state of Montana. His work is estimated to save approximately 8 million lives annually. That's a lot. 8 million lives worldwide annually. We could blame him for population control, interfering with natural selection, but that's not what living life is about, is it? We're supposed to be saving lives. And that's what Dr. Hilleman has done. He's saved approximately 8 million lives annually in the entire world. So Dr. Hilleman developed the mumps vaccine, and this is actually the mumps vaccine. His daughter, Geraldine, had mumps, and he collected the specimen from his daughter and took that strain to develop the mumps vaccine. And the mumps vaccine is still made from her strain today. Pretty interesting. That's the loveliness of biology and biotech in the vaccine world. He also developed the hepatitis B vaccine, which was significant because it was the first vaccine to prevent a type of human cancer. So when we look at vaccines, vaccines can prevent viruses, it can prevent bacteria, but no one ever thought about vaccines preventing human cancer. And that's the advancement we'll want to talk about here later with the COVID vaccine and the mRNA technology, is where can vaccines really go? A lot of you farmers and ranchers out there, you use vaccines to protect your cattle. But when it comes to humans, what's the hesitation there on protecting humans? Because humans are like a bunch of cattle out there. When you're in the big cities, you're all conjugated together, packed into tiny rooms, living on top of each other. But you're hesitant to vaccine yourself. But farmers and ranchers will go out and vaccine our cattle every year to make sure that they're safe. Hilleman's Montana upbringing influenced his specific approach, and he is credited. And this is the other thing with being a Montana guy. He took the creativity of having chickens to help successfully use chicken eggs to develop vaccines. And these are your protein-based ones, specifically like the flu shot. A lot of the flu vaccines are made in the eggs, but we'll talk about that later on in the show, where the better vaccines now are no longer made in eggs. So we'll talk about that a little bit here when we get to the flu shot. But Hilleman did some great work, folks, and he was a Montanan. So round of applause to Dr. Hilleman. Whether you agree with vaccines or not, it just means no matter, even if you're from the small town of Miles City, I mean, people always laugh at the people in Miles City because you don't think they're very smart, but people in Montana do great things on a big level. So thank you, Dr. Hilleman. He's passed away now, but his wife, I believe, is still alive. And I do believe they have a foundation, but I'm not really sure about that. All right. So how do vaccines work? A lot of people think, oh, it's you're introducing. I don't want to go into speculation because a lot of people out there, a lot of morons out there, don't know what they're talking about. So how vaccines work is, so you take a pathogen, whether it's viral, bacteria, and it's just a small amount. It's not enough to make you sick. It's just a tiny amount. And when it's introduced into the system, and usually the pathogen is introduced intermuscularly about an inch into the muscle, so that way it can be absorbed into the bloodstream. But we introduce this pathogen usually by intermuscular injection into the deltoid or another large piece of meat. And your body takes that in and it's like, hey, this is a foreign pathogen. This does not belong here. What is it? And your technology inside your body creates an immune response. It's like, hey, we don't want this. We got to fight it. And so what comes out is your B lymphocytes or your white blood cells. And they start producing antibodies. And these antibodies is what fights that pathogen. And by fighting that pathogen, your body then starts creating memory cell formation. It learns. It's like AI these days. It learns from the history of the pathogen, what it's going to do to the body and how it fights out, and it continues to build. That's what it's all about. Now, your immune system, if it gets exposed once to something out there and then it's not repetitively exposed, it may lose memory cell formation. And so there's some cool techniques in the vaccine world that we can help program what they call T cell memory that creates your long-term memory for these vaccinations to protect you against those pathogens. So I get vaccinated. You know, I said earlier when I introduced the show, people are dirty and disgusting animals. Now, I'm not saying, you know, everyone's dirty, disgusting animals, but when you think about it, it's just no longer like cattle in a cattle pod or out in a pasture. You got a group of animals around. Humans are no different. They're dirty, disgusting animals also, and they need to protect themselves from the world that we have created. The world's overpopulated. And if you go look at these epidemic and problems that we've had around the world, whether you go back to 1919 when we had the Spanish flu, it's because people are dirty, disgusting animals that are living on top of each other. That's the problem. If people stayed spread out and we didn't have a huge population problem, or, you know, it's like Montana, we don't have a big issue because people used to be spread out. Now that we're starting to grow and live on top of each other in Billings and Bozeman and Missoula, there's probably going to be some issues coming around the corner. So we got to really watch that. And that's the study of epidemiology. And our state health department has epidemiologists that study this stuff. It's pretty cool if you get time to look into epidemiology. It's really interesting. But this is a reason for population control. If you don't want to vaccinate, you don't believe in vaccinating, we really got to worry about population control, because that's when more diseases and more spreading of those diseases can come about. So when you get vaccinated, I've always heard, like during the pandemic, people were only saying they were getting vaccinated to protect everyone else. But that's not true. You get vaccinated to protect you and only you. Now, if you look at it the other way, I guess I could look at it as with the epidemiology, because we always say if you could vaccinate at least 36% of the population, you can control a pandemic. And so I guess if 36 per people are getting it, it could help reduce the spread of serious illness. But at the end of the day, you get vaccinated to protect you, because that vaccine is protecting only antibodies for yourself. It's not producing antibodies for anybody else. And so why should you get vaccinated? To prevent serious illness, yeah. But we want to lower the risk of complications, reduce the healthcare costs. So when we're talking about, like, when you get sick, let's say you're elderly, you get pneumonia, you end up in the hospital, how expensive is that, not only for everyone that contributes to the healthcare world, like Medicare, but yourself? What do you have for deductibles and copays? And are you willing to risk that financial obligation? And so really a vaccine can help lower those healthcare costs and also maybe prevent death. There's about, let's just take flu, for instance, about 180 people in the state of Montana die every year from flu in the state of Montana. Very small number. It's not very big, but still 180 people do. And those people are not vaccinated. So again, epidemiology, when you get time to look into this, like I said, it's really interesting. It's a study of the distribution and determinants of health-related events, or the science of public health, focusing on understanding how diseases spread and what the factors influence their occurrence. So epidemiology. All right, so let's talk about the first vaccine, the MMR, because this has been in the news. All right, measles, mumps, rubella. You're talking about how, the news is trying to blow up measles. Oh, another outbreak, folks. 2 outbreaks is not a big deal. Is it even newsworthy? It's not newsworthy. People who chose not to vaccinate their kids, this is a result of bad decision making. Okay, but it was their choice. They chose to not have their kids vaccinated. So now they have the measles. And what people need to learn from this is, because you got a lot of people out there past pandemic that are anti-vaxxers, and they're very strong about it. But you're making that decision, and you have a right to make that decision. But you will learn from that decision. And if you make the wrong decision for your kids by not getting them the MMR vaccine, they could be on the headline as kid at church group gets measles. But anyway, the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella, this is a live vaccine. It comes in a 2-dose series, and you vaccinate your kids. The first dose, they get their first dose between the ages of 12 and 15 years old. Okay. The second dose, you vaccinate them between the ages of 4 and 6-year-old. And there's no need for a booster. So once you have the 2-dose series, you are covered for life. So get your kids vaccinated with the MMR vaccine. They are good for life. You are doing them a favor. You're not going to cause them harm. You're not going to cause them to have autism or anything crazy. Pull your mind out of the gutter. Now, here's the thing. You adults out there that are worried about the measles outbreak, I've had a lot of people come into the pharmacy. I'd like to get the measles vaccine. And I ask, why? Well, measles is going around. Well, no, there's no booster for MMR. The thing is, if you've been vaccinated with the MMR and you can prove it, you don't need to be revaccinated. There's no boosters. There's no need for a booster. The vaccine is 97% effective for your entire life, which is great. That's that long-term T-cell memory that we were talking about. And that's why they do 2 doses, because when you hit the body with the first dose, the body will build short-term memory. But when it gets exposed again years later, guess what? The body's like, hey, I need to build that long-term T-cell memory and carry that way. It's 97% effective for the rest of my life. So adults, you don't need to be vaccinated. Now, if you can't find your vaccine records and you don't know if you had the MMR, then yes, you can get the 2 doses of MMR if you want to, but that's a decision you'll have to make. Is it worth it or not? If you did have the MMR, but you can't prove it, but you want to do it and you get it again, it's not going to hurt you. Okay. But again, at the end of the day, with the media scare, don't buy into it. Don't buy into the media scare that measles is going around. We're all going to get measles, because most of us are vaccinated. When the vaccine came out, most of us got it when we were kids. So I don't see a problem with that. But what they should be doing is the news should be telling these younger parents that came through the pandemic, that are anti-vaxxers, that got misinformation, make the right decision for your kids. Vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they will help prevent complications for your children down the road. So let's talk about the influenza vaccine, the flu shot. And this is an annual one. And the reason they can't build long-term memory for this and you have to get annual flu shots, it's because the flu virus changes. It changes every year. You got your Hong Kong virus, you got your Australia virus, you got your South America virus. I mean, there's all kinds of these, and they got flu and they got flu A and they got flu B. So the flu shot is recommended annually for ages 6 months and older. And we can get into some government ridiculous here because pharmacies are fully capable of giving flu vaccines to children 6 months and older. Actually, and even 3 and older is what I prefer. But guess what? Our government, our Department of Labor, and our state legislature uh, limit pharmacists to giving vaccines to ages 7 and older because they want the kids to go to a pediatrician. So this is government ridiculous because it creates a barrier that says, all right, parents, you can go to the pharmacy and let your 3-year-old watch you get your flu shot, even though you want them to get the flu shot at the same time. But our government says, no, you can get your flu shot at the pharmacy, but you have to take your kid into a doctor and make a doctor's appointment. And there's no reason for it. It's just government bureaucracy at its best. And that's why we need to shut down the Department of Labor because, well, I don't want to blame them all the way because the boards create this garbage, take it to the legislature, and they do it. But the medical association, the Montana Medical Association, was behind this. They're the ones trying to preserve their industry and hold on to everything they can. And so it's competition in the healthcare world. We're like, no, we're not giving that up. We still want all the kids to come to us. But anyway, ages 7 and up, you can come to any pharmacy like Farm 406, walk in, no appointment, and get your flu shot this year. And you can bring your kids if they're 7 years and older, but anyone under 7, you have to go to your doctor. So just keep that in mind. Now, there's been some different types of flu shots out there and the preservatives that are in them. So recently, Kennedy, he made the mercury preservative-based flu vaccine illegal in the United States. There's no evidence out there that says the mercury has ever caused any problems or that it's dangerous to humans. But the thought behind it of using mercury is it's harmful. And so it's just kind of a common sense thing, even though there's no evidence behind it. So there is no longer going to be any mercury-based vaccines out there in the United States. But the most common one out there for flu vaccine was an egg-based. And this one has been the standard of flu vaccines until about 4 or 5 years ago. And the egg-based vaccine is, flu shot. The egg-based flu shot is only about 47% effective. Okay, so that's why people always said the flu shot doesn't work. The flu shot doesn't work. Well, it's a guess too because they're trying to guess at the strain, and then they're putting in the egg, the chicken eggs to grow it, and then by the time it comes out, it mutates on its own. So then it's only 47% effective. But about 5 years ago, new technology has came out, and I've only carried the plant. And it's a plant cell based vaccine. And I've only carried that at Farm 406. It was new 5 years ago. And I'm like, hey, I want the new and improved. And it's done in plant cells. So you don't have to worry about allergies to eggs. And the best thing about it is being in a plant cell, it doesn't mutate. So it is 87% effective. And that's why I've only used the best at Farm 406. It's a cell-based flu shot. Fewer side effects, more effective. It's a win-win for everybody. And you will get that again this year at Farm 406 is our plant cell-based flu shot. So can you get the flu from the flu vaccine? The answer is no. Okay, these pathogens are so small, you cannot get the flu from the flu vaccine. What you actually get is a decrease in immune system. So anytime you introduce a pathogen into the body, your immune system goes to work. And the level of work it goes depends on the person. Everybody's different. But you could actually increase, all right, let me back up here. So you get sick because your immune system goes into hyperdrive. You feel tired. You feel under the weather. It's because your immune system's burning calories, but you are not getting the flu. If you do get the flu, it's because you actually ran into somebody that had the flu and you got it from your neighbor, your friend, somewhere in public, and you got the flu coincidentally. Now let's talk about the cost of the flu shot. The flu shots range here at Farm 406. you can pay $35 for a flu shot if you have no insurance. I've heard some of our competitors charging $80 last year. But if you have insurance, your insurance pays 100% of your vaccines. So you can walk in, no appointment, at Farm 406, get your flu shot at no cost to you, and be done. And the flu shot should be arriving here at the third week of August at Farm 406. Remember, Farm 406 is Montana's vaccination destination. We are open 7 days a week. Walk in, no appointments. So let's get into the next vaccine here, pneumonia. So pneumonia vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine, or the pneumonia vaccine, there's different ones out there. So the old standard pneumonia shot was a pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine, or the PPSV23. And that was the standard vaccine. Well, then new and improved things come along and the CDC changed their requirements. So then the PCV, or the pneumococcal conjugated vaccine, PCV15, came out. And what the CDC came about and said is, look, now we're showing you should have two. So then they were having people get the PPSV23 and then waiting a year and getting the PCV15, and then they considered you fully vaccinated. Well, what a pain in the butt, right? And so the PCVs, the newer pneumonia vaccines, evolved. And a couple years ago, well, let's see, it was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the PCV20, Prevnar 20, came to market. And this was the new and approved one and done. And so now we can give one shot again and people are done for the rest of their life. Well, then last year, the PCV21 came out, and this was just a competitor's move. Okay. They're like, hey, there's a big market for pneumonia shots. The PCV20 has captured a lot of that market. So the competitor came out with PCV21. They're like, we're going to throw one more strain of pneumonia or bacteria in there just to make it a better, so we can market it as a better vaccine. But at the end of the day, you're not seeing better results between the Prevnar 20 and the PCV21. So it really doesn't matter. So those of you out there that had the PPSV23 and the PCV15, you're like, for my protection, I want to get the new and approved PCV20 or the 21. Wait 5 years since your last shot. Most of the people have by now, and you can come in and get that one and done. It's not going to hurt you. It'll reintroduce those to your immune system and get you up to speed. So don't be afraid to do that. If you've had the PCV20 or the 21, it is recommended for anybody ages 65 and plus. It's one and done. You don't have to repeat it unless you have certain medical conditions. Then you can talk to your healthcare provider. You can come into Farm 406 and talk to me, and we can make a decision. Do we need to repeat that every 5 years? Because there's some literature out there that if you have COPD, asthma, cancer therapy, it is actually recommended to repeat some of these vaccines every 5 years to keep your immune system up, because you have other complications. Now, if you are ages 18 and older and you have medical conditions like asthma or COPD, anything respiratory, again, if you're in cancer, you can also qualify to get a pneumonia shot. And it's very good, because if you start off with asthma and then you retain some fluid, you get pneumonia, then you end up getting in the hospital, you end up on antibiotics, and you could be intubated. And you could probably die. But a lot of people with pneumonia do recover. It is a long, painful process, but because breathing, you got to breathe. You love your air. And when you can't breathe, it's painful. So the cost of a pneumonia vaccine, insurance does cover it. So it's zero copay for a lot of people. But if you don't have insurance, you're looking at about $300 for that vaccine. But $300 is a pretty good investment in your healthcare. So let's talk about let's see here. Let's jump into tetanus shot, the Tdap. All right, so we have the Tdap, which is tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, and whooping cough. All right, so tetanus is a serious bacterial infection that causes muscle spasms. And so this is caused by, if you go out and you cut yourself on some dirty nail and pick up that bacteria that is in that, you'll get tetanus. Very painful. It could be deadly. This is the one that Bob Vila. So a lot of people that listened to Bob Vila back in the day, if it's been 10, do it again. If it's been 10, do it again. And that's because you repeat the tetanus vaccine every 10 years to protect yourself against tetanus. So you farmers and ranchers out there, you construction workers out there, if you haven't had a tetanus shot, or you're like, I don't remember when it is, just get it done every 10 years. Or if you forget, or even if you get a serious cut, it's good just come in and get a tetanus shot. And again, you can walk right into Farm 406 anytime. Your insurance will pay for it, no cost to you. You can get that tetanus shot. But what's also in the Tdap? So we got diphtheria, that's the D. Diphtheria is a respiratory infection that causes breathing problems and heart failure. We really haven't heard a lot about diphtheria, but it's out there, and we include it in this vaccine as a combo product. And then you have the pertussis. And pertussis is a highly contagious respiratory infection that is really more dangerous towards infants, but it can affect adults too, because this is considered the whooping cough. And so in the state of Montana, Montana Code Annotated actually requires kids in the grades of 7 to 12, or around the age of 10-ish, to get the Tdap before they enter middle school. And the reason for that is because of the pertussis outbreaks that have been going on in the middle school ages. And so that's when you start with the Tdap. It's an age 10 vaccine, and then you repeat it every 10 years for the rest of your life. But the pertussis, that's where, like, if you're going to be around a kid, or mom's having kids, or a new baby born, and they're like, hey, you need to go get the pertussis vaccine because I'm going to have an infant. If you want to come visit, you have to have it. This is the one you're going to get. It's the Tdap. And this one here, really, like, it's an easygoing vaccine, but I tell you what, it makes your arm feel like someone hit you with a baseball bat. It does make your arm pretty sore. But again, cost-wise, insurance will cover it. $0 copay. If you don't have insurance, you're looking at about $65-ish at Farm 406. Not a big deal. Pretty inexpensive for that. But anyway, my fellow Montanans, it is time we take a break. You are listening to My Fellow Montanans. I am Dr. Kyle Austin, and we will be right back after this break. Country roads take me home to a place I belong. Rocky Mountains, Missouri River, take me home. Country roads. Broadcasting from Farm 406 Studios, you are tuned into My Fellow Montanans. And for those of you that, just tuning in or trying to figure out what the show is about, and, I figured I'd sing a second time. Maybe I warmed up after the first part of the show. So you can vote whether my singing at the first half was better than the second half, or vice versa, or just don't sing at all, Kyle. But anyway, welcome back to My Fellow Montanans. We got a great second half of the show. The first half of the show, we were talking about some vaccines options that are out there for you guys and kind of explaining it. But we're going to go back into talking about some of those other vaccines, and then we'll tie up the show with maybe some government ridiculousness that we normally did. Normally, I just do government ridiculousness, and throw a little healthcare in. But today's mostly healthcare because we're rolling into the fall when vaccines are important. Fall is vaccine season, so you need to decide what vaccines you need, what's important to you, and get it done. All right, so let's talk about the shingles vaccine, or Shingrix. And shingles is a herpes zoster virus. It causes a painful rash from the reactivation of the varicella zoster virus. And this is the same virus that causes chickenpox. A lot of you younger guys out there that, you probably got the chickenpox vaccine, so you never had chickenpox. But a lot of us older individuals out there had chickenpox when we were a kid, and you're like, you have all these little spots all over you, and you're like, wow, this is cool. And then you had parents that had the community chicken pox events where everyone would bring their kids over and throw their kids in the same room with someone that had chicken pox so they can all have chicken pox together. Big celebration. Might as well get it done all at once, right? And create that immune system, I guess, because you get the chicken pox, you get the immune system. But by having that varicella zoster virus in you, it hangs dormant in the ganglion nerve. And so at any time your immune system weakens when you get older, this horrible varicella zoster virus emerges. And this virus will cause that shingles rash, and it could happen anywhere. You see the pictures where it's around people's eyes and their nose, on their mouth. It could be on the back. And it's just not a skin rash, folks. It actually will penetrate into the nerves of your kidneys, your eyes. People can lose their sight over it. They can lose kidney function, and it's painful, and it can last a long time. And so the shingles vaccine has actually not only prevented shingles, but it can also reduce the symptoms if you do have a shingles outbreak. Okay, because there's no cure for shingles. So the Shingrix is recommended for ages 50 and older, or if you are 19 years or older and you have a weakened immune disease, you can get the shingles vaccine with the approval of your provider, your doctor. It's a 2-dose series. You get your first shot today, and then you need a second dose in 2 to 6 months after that first dose so you can build that long-term T-cell memory. They've shown that the shingles vaccine is 90% effective. Pretty good, right? 90% effective. It's a one-time series done, and you don't need to repeat it for life. But however, there was an old shingles vaccine known as Zostavax. It was a one shot that you got under the lower side of your arm, and they showed that that one didn't build long-term immunity. So if you've had the one shot of Zostavax and you've never came in and got the 2-dose Shingrix, now's the time to do it, because that Zostavax was not proven to be effective enough. The Shingrix is covered under your Medicare Part D plan and all insurance plans. So at no cost to you, you can get these shots. And that started about 2 years ago. Prior to 2 years ago, Medicare D would not cover it because of some government ridiculousness with the language in the Obamacare bill that actually had that required insurance companies to cover vaccines. The language left out Shingrix. And so since the language left that out, guess what? The insurance companies, a crooked insurance company, said we wouldn't cover it. So it took an act of Congress, literally an act of Congress 2 years ago, to require shingles vaccines to be covered on insurance plans. So at no cost to you, you can come in and get the shingles shot now. But if you don't have insurance, you're looking at Farm 406, $225 per shot. So 225 times 2, you're looking at $450 for the series. But again, it's well worth it than getting shingles. Shingles can be painful, and it could last a while. And it could be, I don't know if it could be deadly, but it could hospitalize you for quite a while. If you've had shingles and you don't want to go through that again, you can get vaccinated, but you need to wait at least 6 months to let your immune system heal and get over it, because if you introduce the vaccine too soon, you can cause the shingles to emerge again, and it could be worse. So here's the big thing in the news. Like everyone always asks, well, if I've never had chicken pox, do I need the shingles vaccine? And the answer is, if you've never had chicken pox and you're pretty darn sure of that, you don't need to get Shingrix. But if you don't know, that's a decision you got to make, because a lot of the older individuals out there, you don't remember a lot of things anyway, and there's not a lot of good record keeping. So did you have chicken pox or not? And if you don't know, I would make the decision, look, you can just get the shingles vaccine and just be done with it. But that's a decision you got to make. However, if you've ever had the chicken pox vaccine, and so the chickenpox vaccine is also known as a varicella vaccine, and this was given to kids starting around 1995. Okay, so that's something to also look into if you're a younger individual and you're like, well, I don't know if I've had chicken pox or not, but if you go back to your records and you're like, well, I've had the varicella vaccine, then you don't need to get you don't want to get the Shingrix vaccine. You're good because you don't have that virus in your body. So let's talk about the RSV vaccine. This one's been new. This one came out, what, 3 years ago? Respiratory syncytial virus. Respiratory syncytial virus. So this is like a cold virus that gets in your lungs. It's one of the top things. This was something out of the pandemic when they were testing people, older adults that were getting hospitalized for respiratory viruses, and they were searching for COVID. They actually found that a large amount of people coming in actually had RSV. So they developed a vaccine during the pandemic to treat these people because they realized there's a lot of people getting hospitalized for literally a cold virus. So this RSV vaccine's been out for a couple years now. It is recommended. They changed this. When it first came out, it was for 60 and older. Then the CDC, they did a little further studies. They now recommend it as a one and done at ages 75 and older, or ages 60 and older who are at increased risk. So that's a decision that we got to make, is if you're 60 and older and you're living in a long-term care facility, an assisted living, a group home, or you have other underlying risks like just being overweight, you should probably get the RSV vaccine. But if you're young, healthy, athletic, well, I shouldn't say young, you're 60 and older, between 60 and 75, but you're athletic, you're energetic, you're healthy, I would wait till you're 75. You don't have to worry about it. But this vaccine, the RSV vaccine, is a one and done vaccine. You can get it any time of the year. You don't have to wait for the fall. And this is paid for Medicare D plans as well. If you don't have a Medicare Part D plan or private insurance, it'll cost you about $300 to get this vaccine at Farm 406. Remember, Farm 406 is Montana's vaccination destination. When you're ready for a vaccine, bring your friends and family in. We are open 7 days a week, walk-ins, no appointment. And guess what? We are the Get a Brew, Not the Flu pharmacy. Yes, 5 years ago when I opened Farm 406, I wanted something creative and something fun. So I created a program, Get a Brew, Not the Flu. And if you walk into Farm 406 and you get your flu shot at Farm 406, you get your choice of a free Mazevo coffee, or you can go over to Canyon Creek and get a brew. It's a win-win. And yeah, I got to pay for that coffee and I got to pay for that brew. But that's how Montanans thank other Montanans when you do business, right? I appreciate you doing business at Farm 406, so I'm going to buy you a beer. Get a brew, not the flu, at Farm 406. So let's talk about the COVID vaccine, because this has always been a hot topic. And, there's always more. We can always talk about government conspiracy. And let's talk a little bit about the government conspiracy a little bit with the COVID vaccine. But for 2025, let's talk about what's going on in 2025 here. So there's going to be 3 COVID vaccines available on the market. You're going to have the Pfizer, the Moderna, and Novavax is still hanging in there. They've had some struggles, but they're still there in 2025. The differences between the vaccines. Okay, so Pfizer is an mRNA vaccine. Moderna is an mRNA vaccine. And then Novavax has a different so it's your non-mRNA choice. And I was carrying Moderna and Novavax the last couple of years, but Novavax has struggled with their internal operations. And so I'd like to offer a non-mRNA version again this year. I might bring in a box for a few of those people that don't want the mRNA. So if you're against mRNA, but you want a COVID vaccine, definitely ask me. I might just order it in for you. So let's see here. So Moderna has a new, they keep advancing in the COVID vaccine area. So they have a new vaccine that is modernized. It's called mNEX Spike. And this is an mRNA-1283 is what they're calling it. And that's the lab name. This is the next generation COVID-19 vaccine. And it's approved for ages 65 and older, or ages 12 to 64 with underlying medical conditions. And this was another change that the government has made this year, is that the COVID vaccine is not recommended for everyone. Okay, it's only recommended for those ages 65 and older. And then they have the age group of 12 to 64 with an underlying medical condition. Now, that underlying medical condition can be anything. Basically, if you brainstorm up some crazy idea that why you need a COVID shot, and you're 30 years old, and you come in and say, Kyle, I'm 30 years old, but I have a sore toe, or some medical condition that you feel you need to have the COVID vaccine. Um, I would even say if you told me you were traveling to some third world country, I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't have a problem. You can get the COVID vaccine. Um, this new COVID vaccine, actually, this mNEX spike from Moderna, it's only going to be a zero point 0.2 mil dose. So they have decreased the volume from the zero point 0.5 mils down to 0.2 mils. And to make it not only match the new COVID strains that are out there, but to be effective. That's pretty cool. Only 0.2 mils. The Spikevax, that version of the Moderna mRNA will still be available this year for ages 12 and up as well. Still no difference. I'm going to probably say I'm going to carry the mNEX spike just because it is a lower volume that we're injecting into the individual, and it's the next generation because everyone likes new and improved, right? So COVID-19 vaccines for use in the United States beginning in the fall should be they're going to be monovalent. They're going to cover the JN1 lineage-based COVID-19 vaccines this year, preferential to the LP.8.1 strain. So, I mean, the strains keep changing. COVID's kind of like flu, where they're going to be chasing it. It's going to be an annual vaccine. Side effects are going to be the same, where you can feel some injection site irritation, a little tiredness, a little fatigue. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's making anybody grow any tails or changing their color of their hair or anything. So it's pretty cool stuff out there with these vaccines. But what I wanted to talk about with the conspiracy is I really feel with Donald Trump's emergency use authorization, he let technology out into the open. mRNA technology has been around for years. It was actually discovered back in the 90s. And the government suppressed this technology because they were afraid of it. And it was probably religious, those religious Bible thumpers out there probably are the reason for it. But anyway, it's been kept in the labs. It's been kept under the government's thumb. And then in 2019, when the pandemic hit, the lady that actually designed the mRNA technology, she won a Nobel Prize. And during her speech, she said, in 3 years, mRNA technology will cure cancer. She didn't talk about COVID. She didn't care about COVID. She cared about her dreams of what mRNA technology will actually do. And when we started the show today, we talked about how Hilleman developed the vaccine that actually helped cure cancer, the hepatitis vaccine. So here we are with vaccines curing cancer. And if you go in and you look right after 2019, yeah, they're using mRNA technology for COVID vaccine, but the studies progressed with using mRNA to treat cancer. And what they do is they go in, they take a small sample of that cancer, they replicate it into an mRNA vaccine, and they can do this in 2 to 3 days. Then they inject your own cancer cells, that pathogen, back into your body, and your body actually starts fighting that cancer. Pretty cool. You can go read about this. It's making headway, it's promising, and it keeps getting better. I really feel like that is the true reason that mRNA technology, they use the COVID pandemic as a reason to get this technology out there so we can do bigger, better things with fighting cancer. So what are some other vaccines you might consider that are based on age? So we got the HPV, the human papillomavirus. And this is recommended for ages 12 and up to help prevent HPV-related cancers and infections. And this is, this vaccine's made some headways over the last couple of years. A lot of colleges are really pushing it on admission. It's doing a lot of great things. We don't stock it at Farm 406 because it is an expensive vaccine. And a lot of providers usually give it. A lot of people that are uninsured usually just go to the health department and get it. Let's see, you got meningococcal vaccine. Okay, so this is a 2-dose series. Second dose is now, and then so you get 2 doses. You get one now, and the second dose is recommended at the age of 18. So that's another childhood vaccine that they give out there Then you got the hepatitis A and the hepatitis V. And these are good vaccines, the hepatitis ones, because guess what? You get hepatitis, it can mess with your liver. And if you mess with your liver, you might as well, go start digging that hole 6 feet deep, because if you don't have your liver, you're going to die. It's one of those important organs, right? So hepatitis A and B prevent liver disease that could be lifelong, life-threatening, usually given in childhood. Again, this is a childhood vaccine, but we see it repeated in like healthcare workers or other people that are at high risk of bloodborne pathogens, because we want to protect ourselves if we get exposed to hepatitis A or B and protect that liver. So I want to remind everybody out there that Farm 406 has been nominated for one of the best pharmacies, not only in Billings, but the state of Montana. And we need your help to win Best Pharmacy again this year. We won Best Pharmacy last year for 2024. We are nominated again to win it again. So I need your help. I need you to text the number 214 to this number, 406 708 8670. That's right. You're going to text 214 to 406 708 8670. And you can do that once a day until voting closes on August 17th. So every morning when you wake up, just text 214 to that same number and help Farm 406 win Best Pharmacy for 2025 again. So quick little story. Last Saturday, it's great to be in Montana, right, folks? It's great to be in Montana. So I took my Harley. I'm a Harley rider. I grew up riding motorcycles on the farm and tearing up the dirt trails on motorcycles. And then in college, I got a Suzuki GS 500 that I used to go to college with, because it was great on fuel. It was cheap on insurance, and I didn't have to fight for parking at the University of Montana. It was great. So I had a little Suzuki 500, and then today I have a Harley Fat Bob, and it's a sexy looking bike. But I tell you what, it's great to take in Montana and jump on that. I just woke up Saturday morning. I'm like, I'm going to jump on the Harley and I'm going to go over the Beartooth and go to Cook City and back. And it was great. Very pretty, and riding the motorcycle up there with the views, and you got the corners that you're leaning into, and the smell of the outdoors, just amazing. I didn't see any wildlife on this trip, which is unfortunate, but usually you do. Usually, if I would have kept going past Cook City, I probably could have saw the buffalo. But, we grew up in Montana. Buffalo are kind of ugly to us. But anyway, while you're out there, I want you listeners to remember motorcycle safety, because motorcycles, they're like semi trucks, but on the other side of the spectrum. You got semi trucks that have their limitations, and they're big and bulky. They can't stop on a dime. They take longer to speed up. You also got to think the other way with motorcycles. Motorcycles are fast, quick. And yes, they need to ride responsibly, but you also have to be defensive around these motorcycles. Give them space, respect the road. But you also got to respect the other idiots out there too, because when I'm riding my motorcycle, I always think of every other driver out there as being an idiot, and I stay away from them and I drive like a grandpa. So let's talk a little bit. We only got a few minutes left on the show for today, but let's jump into a little government ridiculousness. I want to remind everybody out there that we still have a need for national pharmacy benefit manager reform. And you will hear about this from me every day of the year until our national leadership do something about it, because there is a lot of fraud, waste, and corruption coming from the pharmacy benefit managers. And these pharmacy benefit managers are who manages your pharmacy benefits, the adjudication of the claims, the prior authorizations, how much they pay, how much you pay. And we need PBM reform, folks. And it's not just for the private insurance industry. What we've seen is the Medicare PBMs, the ones that got all this power and all this money from the federal government when Medicare D came out in 2001, they are stealing from the taxpayers, they are stealing from you, and they are stealing from the pharmacies. So we need to get our Steve Daines out there, our Tim Sheehy. I would say Troy Downing, but Troy Downing's been bought and paid for, folks. When he was part of the Commissioner of Insurance Practice here, and then he got elected into United States Congress, the guy's bought and paid for by insurance companies. He's bought and sold. He still thinks that providers are out there committing fraud, waste, and abuse when they're not. That is a total crock that is coming from the PBMs to sidetrack everybody. Where the real fraud, waste, and abuse is in the Medicare world, it's with the pharmacy benefit managers. We need to elect Troy Downing out of there because he really doesn't know what he's doing. He's an out-of-state Californian that came up here to get elected, and he was bought and paid for, and he is not going to do the best thing for Montanans. We need to get him out of there. But anyway, that's because he's bought and paid for by the PBMs. He's not going to change it. But if you feel like calling his office and telling him to pull his head out of his butt, do it. But if you got time and you want to call up Steve Daines' office, he sits on the Medicare committee, and he'd be a great one. And I reached out to them many times and said, hey, these are the issues going on. You need to address it. But it takes more than one person to fix these things, to fix the corruption from these big lobbying groups like the pharmacy benefit managers. So reach out to Steve Daines' office. Tim Sheehy, he's still young. And then you got Ryan Zinke. Ryan Zinke might jump on board. Who knows? This guy kind of flip-flops a little bit. Depends on how much whiskey he drank. What about urban camping? This has kind of been in the news. It's been an ongoing problem in Montana with the price of the rent skyrocketing, property taxes skyrocketing. But urban camping, is that a problem? I mean, I go to Bozeman and I see all these campers, and it does look trashy. I mean, it's not a good sight to see, but you kind of wonder, where do these people have to go if they can't afford rent, can't afford to buy a house? Even trailer parks have gotten overpriced. So how do we fix this? I mean, is this a problem that we created in the state of Montana? I think so. I mean, we've had the DEQ driving up regulations and driving up costs of developments. We've had property taxes going up. But is urban camping a sign of poverty, or is it a sign of choice? That's what we got to figure out. But, if I was governor, I always say if I was governor, because someday I hope I'm governor of the state of Montana, I would like to figure out how to relax the laws to bring back affordable campgrounds. Because if someone chooses to live in a camper, we just need a place for them to go that they can go live life. And pay and be a part of society. I don't want to say it's free. I hate giving stuff away. People need to own up and be a part of society. But how do we make campgrounds affordable so we could have more affordable campgrounds? So instead of these people parking their camper on the street, they can go to these campgrounds. Or even bringing back more RV parks where people can put their camper in there. It's affordable. Because what happens right now, if you want to go develop an RV park, you have probably $100,000 in expenses just in regulations and studies and all the garbage that's created by our state of Montana, DEQ and city codes and all that garbage. We need to get away from that, because if someone's not going to develop an affordable campground, if they have to invest $100,000 just to get past all the studies. So those are things we got to think about. Is we created a problem, but how do we fix those problems? Instead of just telling people, well, you can't park your camper there. Well, where are they going to go? Everything's privately owned. They can't go out to the public places because they have, 7-day restricted. So now they're moving their campers into the Walmarts, and then they're just bouncing around and parking in front of different people's houses. We got to get back to the affordability. It's not a matter of giving someone a big, 8,000 square foot house to live in. No. It's like, if they want to live in a camper because that's all they can afford, we got to create affordable parking places for them so they can still live and be part of society and even live in Montana. I mean, if they're not from Montana coming here, then yeah, we should probably go kick them out, but that's a different subject. What about county-owned public parks? Maybe the counties have an opportunity here to take some public county land and create affordable campgrounds for people to live there and charge them a fee. Remember, Farm 406 is opening its second location in Butte here next week. So if you're over in Butte, feel free to stop down Harrison. It's a real honor to be growing a small business in Montana and helping Montanans out with their prescription needs. It just goes to show that why Farm 406 is the #1 pharmacy in the state of Montana. So we are growing. Second location, Butte, Montana. But if you're in Billings here, you can stop in and get a free bag of popcorn while you're here. Do a little shopping. We got some OTCs, lift chairs, walkers, wheelchairs. We are open 7 days a week, and we offer free delivery. We will hand deliver that prescription to you if you're within the Billings area. But if you're outside the Billings area, we'll just drop it in the mail at no charge to you. So there's no reason not to transfer your prescriptions to Farm 406 today. That concludes today's show. Thank you for listening to My Fellow Montanans. I am Dr. Kyle Austin. Follow us on youtube.com at My Fellow Montanans. You can listen on 94.7 FM or the Mighty 790 AM, or listen live anywhere in the world at mighty790.com. If you'd like to be a guest, sponsor, or advertise on the show, email me, Kyle, at farm406.com.